Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're reviewing Love is Blind. I almost said Married at First Sight, but
Me too.
no, right? Love is Blind, the wedding episode. Da, da, da.
We made it.
Okay, let's start with Chelsea and Jimmy. I feel like they always put them at the beginning of every episode, and they're doing a good job because
It hooks us in
it
because, wow.
does. I'm not gonna hold you. Jimmy did what needed to be done.
Thank you.
I mean, the first time when he tried to break up with her, that should have been it. I don't know why he decided to go back. She looped him back in, but I'm glad
She
that
wore him down, I think.
yeah,
I
she was
think
wearing him down.
in that moment of that argument,
Mhm.
I think he was just kind of caught up the next day, like, oh, it was the alcohol. I think he had more time to sleep on it. So the episode starts with they're at the theme park sitting down,
Mhm.
and he asked her, okay, well, I know where I'm at, but I haven't heard much about where you're at. And I'm like, oh, Jimmy, how sneaky of you
How do
knowing.
you how do you feel about him starting like that? Because he said this after saying to her, I'm pretty sure you're my person. I want to be with you. You've done everything that I think a wife should do. Like, he hyped her up. It's not funny. It's not funny. But he hyped her up just to ask her and put the ball in her court.
Right. Now, on one hand, I think it was misleading a bit just because she's like, oh, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. He's saying the right things. However, I think it gave her the opportunity to really just say how she felt independent of him. Because he
Mhm.
did say, I haven't really heard you say much about how you're feeling. I know how you've been acting, but you haven't come right out and said, oh, I feel like I'm going to be a yes or a no on decision day. She says or claims it's been a roller coaster for her. I say
It's been intense. Yeah.
it's a good part has been on you, but she says, oh, I could see you being an amazing husband. But then she uses that moment to remind him that the wild ride has been a lot because of you.
Hmm. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting when she was talking because she goes, "Well, we know we can handle conflict. Do we know that? Because I don't know that I'm satisfied. I know it's not my relationship, but I don't know that I'm satisfied with how they have resolved conflicts."
I think him putting the ball in her court gave her the opportunity to not be delusional.
Do you think he did it to maybe see if she could convince him?
I don't think so.
You think
He
his mind was
seemed
made
pretty
up?
solid in his resolve because it immediately jumps to, I want us to work so bad, but I don't want us to go to the altar.
Whew,
There was no him and hawing in that.
at all. He was
So I
very
think he
direct.
knew.
Oh my goodness. What Chelsea's lips I've noticed are naturally in a frown, but then she like also
Mm.
frowns a lot. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I knew it was about to be a moment where, and I don't want to take her sadness for granted, but after so many episodes of her whining and her crying, I was like, oh Lord, here we go. She's about to give us more of it. And that she did.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so what do you think about him bringing up the part about her saying Amy and Johnny were the strongest couple?
I don't think he should be bringing up Amy and Johnny,
Yeah.
but I think I get the point that he's trying to make because
Right.
he follows it up with, you've questioned if I was genuine and if I loved you. And so I think what he's trying to say is that I want you to acknowledge that we aren't, like, you're saying like, hey, we're not the strongest couple, but you're also very delusional about where we're at.
Okay,
So
fair.
instead of him coming right out and saying that, he keeps pointing to what she said about, oh, Amy and Johnny, they're the strongest, they're the strongest. I think he, in a weird roundabout way, is trying to show her, if you can acknowledge that that's a great place to be, then what does that say about us? If you don't believe that we're there,
that. Hmm.
then why are you so confident to move forward? And I don't think he should be bringing them up, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to piece together his communication and
There
yeah.
there was a lot of that for me. I also think it just hurt his feelings, but like you said, probably because he felt like he was putting everything in and she wasn't believing that he was genuine about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Apparently, they had just become cool that day because they both mentioned, "Oh, yeah, yesterday we were off and it wasn't good." So I understand what?
And in the last episode, she said something about that was the closest she's felt to him or the greatest she's felt about them. So
Mhm.
that's another just odd thing.
I don't know that she has a good idea of what a healthy relationship is, looks like, feels like. And I think it shows when she says things like, "Oh, I felt the closest to you when I was being the most toxic toward you." Like, I'm sorry, what? So yeah, I
Mhm.
don't I think, and she said this in her whatever response to him. She's
Mhm.
like, that's marriage. Marriage is hard. And as challenging as it is for two people to join lives,
Mhm.
to grown people, who lived on their own to come and join lives, especially after only a few weeks. I do want people to stop choosing struggle love and conflating that with what marriage is supposed to be.
And it's been such a short period of time. And so for every
Mhm.
other day to have so much conflict,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that she would be so sure. Um, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about him using this moment to break up with her? Because she says, "Oh, you treated me like this today." She's on cloud nine. They've had such a wonderful date.
I don't know. I feel and I hate when he makes me agree with Chelsea, but I understand why she would say that
Oh, yeah.
because she's feeling like, oh, he buttered me up just to let me down. At the same time, I mean, what did you want him to do? Treat you like trash the whole day? I don't.
I mean, what would have been the alternative? He's distant from you all day, and
Mhm.
then y'all show up at the altar. And
I
so I
might,
don't.
I might prefer that. Like at least I could see it coming.
Mm,
Like,
I'm the opposite. I would have rather him break up with me. It's just him and I
mhm.
versus I bring my
Okay,
family, my friends. We have this whole wedding.
but that is the show.
It
So
is that's true.
technically he went out of order. It is supposed to happen at the if you watch season 1, everybody made it
Mhm.
to the altar because that was the experiment.
But I also think he's seen other couples break up before the altar. We got,
So yeah,
you know,
Jeremy and Laura. Who's
mhm,
that? Oh, Brittany and oh, poor Brittany.
Kenneth. Yeah, we don't forgot about them already. But
Oh my
he
god.
has
I didn't forget
seen
about Kenneth, his old mean self.
we've seen other couples go out of order. And so I don't know. I think maybe part of him also just didn't want to
Bring his family into
bring
that.
his family into the foolishness.
Yeah.
And I could get with that. It's out of order, but maybe because the day before was so rocky,
Mhm.
he's like, nah, I don't want to do it, but today is going to have to be today.
And
The
he
day
did
is going to have to be today.
yeah, he did say, I just don't want to go to the altar.
Yeah.
How did you feel about her? Because she goes, "Then why did you even propose to me? I feel like you weren't even trying to get married." Like, girl, maybe he was, and he just found out that you have
Are
a loose
unhinged.
screws, you know?
It once again shows there's a disconnect
Mhm.
maybe in how she views herself, her behavior. There's a lot of delusion there because she said she boils it down to one argument. He's like, no, there's about five or
5 or
six.
6. He's like, "Baby, let me help you with the math real quick."
And so there shows that there's this disconnect with her that once again, I don't really want to support Jimmy, but I think it was mature of him to acknowledge it and just show that no, you probably shouldn't proceed with a marriage if you have all of this going on
Mhm.
so soon. And then they get into this riff about the clingy, the sex thing,
The friend.
the friends, and she takes no accountability, continues to throw it in his face. And I stand on what I said on our last recap. She's in this friendship whatever with her ex-boyfriend,
And I'm glad he brought
and
it up.
I'm glad that he brought it up,
Mhm.
as well as he was upfront with her about the friend. She said she was okay with it, and then used a whole separate situation about him being outside to bring it up. It wasn't even an independent conversation. And so I'm with Jimmy on this. You have your situation with your friend. You said that you were okay with it. And to top it off, you bring it up on camera. And after I've told you multiple times
Specifically,
that I told you this to protect my friend and her
yeah.
image, you don't even care about that because she was in her feelings. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. No, you could have waited until the camera crew left to
Mhm.
address it in more detail. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. I also think, and I don't know if this will be a problem for Jimmy's future partner, but I also think he's not at the stage where he wants to let go of that friendship, or if he's going to let
Mhm.
it go, it would need to be for someone who he's actually intending on being with forever, and
I
that
agree.
clearly isn't Chelsea. And so for her, I would also take that as, hey, he's not willing to do that thing that you say is going to make you so much more comfortable. So if he's not your person,
And uh, maybe I'm reaching here, but I think him knowing that her friend is in the picture also
exactly.
doesn't give him much motivation to do anything about it.
And the way she tried to distance herself from it, though,
Oh, I
like
don't even talk to him like that.
I don't even, we don't text, we don't call. Girl, you had said he was your best friend, so which one is it?
What did he say? Oh, we y'all FaceTime as soon as we got our phones back.
That had been the first
So
person she called.
I could agree that more boundaries probably need to be in place, but it was never going to be in this situation because she has a complicated situation going on as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Oh, last thing,
mhm.
if this what we've experienced is Chelsea walking on eggshells, I don't want
The
to see her when the
delusion.
eggshells aren't present.
Because
Because
he asked her, well, because she said, oh, well, I'm on eggshells. He's like, okay, about what?
how?
Where?
How, Sway?
The whining and crying that we've had to sit through, but you're on eggshells?
The compensation. No, I did feel bad for her. All jokes aside, I did feel bad for her because I could tell that stop. I could tell that she was looking forward to this moment. I do think it was the right decision for him and for her. I do think that there's some help that she needs just around relationships. So I hope she gets that. And as far as her own emotional stability, like I think she just needs to be more secure. And this was not a good situation for the things that appear to trigger her.
I think, and y'all let me know in the comments if I'm off. I think if she would have controlled her crazy a bit more,
Yeah,
he would have said yes.
absolutely. But I'm
They
glad
would have
she
made it
didn't.
to the altar.
Yeah.
But I think the betrayal with the friend information and the way she did it, dismissive about it, I think that really rubbed him the wrong way.
I know it hurt you and you wanted to protect the rabbit, but it was my feelings. Girl,
Because really, the friend didn't have to show up for filming and to be
yeah.
on camera. I
It
think
sounds like he convinced her, yeah,
mhm.
based on, oh, she knows about it, she's cool with it, she's not gonna expose it. So
And
I'll have you in this situation.
even if they ended the friendship, say they decided not to be close anymore,
Mhm.
um, even still at this point, it's already out there. So I could see why he would try to assure her, like, oh, like it's not going to be revealed because he put enough trust in Chelsea. So yeah, I think if she would have just contained it a bit more, they would have made it to the altar. He seemed, even if she had questions, and we did too, about how much is he really into her, I think he
Mhm.
was trying to get there,
Yeah.
but the crazy and unhinged behavior, I think, sent him in the opposite direction. So,
All
okay,
right.
that's it for
So,
me.
the Bachelorette, there wasn't too much that I wrote down. I mean, I will say the bachelor party looks super boring.
Yeah, I said,
Like, are they
were they
playing
at a winery?
cornhole? Right. Like, what exactly was that? So it was literally just a bunch of men filming. That's it.
Now, maybe I'm reaching, but with the women,
Mhm.
it seemed like a girls' night out, a private girls' night out.
Yeah.
That's to be expected. I wonder if they ask the couples, "What do you wanna do for your bachelorette?" Or
Mm.
do they predetermine? Because I've never seen a bachelor party like that. I would expect them to go to a bar, a lounge,
Something
even a
girl,
private party, but to link up and go drink wine and play cornhole,
one of the
that
seasons.
set the tone for me that this isn't your last hurrah. So,
Yeah. There was one season where they took them to I think it was in Chicago. What's the Chicago baseball team? Is it the Red Sox?
girl, White Sox, Red Sox,
One of the
Mets.
Soxes.
No, is the
It's
Mets in New York?
I
Listen,
wanna say it's the red one, but
baseball is
y'all
the
let
one
us
sport
know.
I don't know any of the teams other than
I
my
know
hometown team. And
exactly.
yeah.
And the Orioles, I don't know what city that is, but I know that's a baseball team. But one of the seasons they went to a baseball, stadium,
Mm.
and I thought, okay, even though that's not standard for, what people show for bachelor parties, I could get with that. Like, you're in a place that has
Mhm.
historic value, you're doing I guess a guy thing to do and having
Mhm.
fun. It's a once in a lifetime type of experience, you'll never forget this. So I could see that more than this.
Yeah, I think also what it is, we're used to these super raunchy married at first sight bachelorette and bachelor,
Mhm.
mainly bachelor parties where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
is this Showtime or Lifetime?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
going on here?
exactly. So yeah, nothing nothing much about that. AD was like, I know Amy's sleeping with that man. She didn't use
Mhm.
that language. Her language was a little bit more colorful. But
Yeah, I mean, what did she say? "Oh, I'm not buying the car until I test drive it." I mean, to each his own.
yeah,
Yeah.
very okay. Can we get to AD and Clay's wedding day now?
Yes, the main
Okay.
event. Or should we do Johnny and Amy first?
No, because I feel like people are gonna be waiting
Oh, okay,
for
okay.
AD and Clay. Yes. Okay.
Oh.
I don't where do we start? So at the beginning, our girl shows up and she talks about how he makes her feel like she can be herself. She doesn't have to
Mhm.
be bubbly. Whatever mood she's in that day, she can just be in, and he's accepting of it, whatever, yada, yada, yada. He says, "This is the biggest decision, but I'm ready for it." And he talked about beauty fading, but having a person who's there for you is really important. He
Mhm.
was talking the talk. And so I was
Was.
convinced, oh, it's absolutely going to be a yes. That, and I do think he sees her value. I don't know that he sees it for himself. I don't know that he would be the guy to be with her, but I think he understands like what she offers
Mhm.
as a friend, as a person.
Yeah. She said, without her confidence in work, they'd still probably be in the pods. And I said, it sounds like she's comfortable shouldering the work.
But she said that last episode or the last few episodes, remember? She said,
Mhm.
"I can carry the load for us. Like, I can lead in the relationship until you catch up." Which I think her perspective is kind of right in some situations. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, there are moments where your strengths are the partner's weakness and whatever. But and this is me being maybe more traditional, right? But
Mhm.
I think when it comes to relationships with men specifically, um, it's something that they have to be putting their all into, and you're responding to them putting their all into it. Like, that's not something that I think you should be like, oh, well, I give my all, and he's just giving what he can give in response to that. I just I don't feel safe in that type of situation. So maybe I'm projecting, but
And I think even if it were reversed to a bit, that means that whoever is ready and willing to shoulder all the work, they're in a position of waiting, waiting, waiting.
yeah.
And I know you mentioned like, oh, maybe you're more traditional, but I think we're still in a space where most men are proposing. So
Mhm.
my thought is you wouldn't ask someone to marry you and follow through on it
Yeah.
if you're not ready 100%. We're
Yeah.
not quite at the point where it's normal for women to be proposing. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Are
like
you buying your own ring? No.
mhm. Shoulder the load for other things, but when it comes to the relationship itself, like both people have to be in my opinion, very sold on this idea. You can't convince someone that this relationship is
Mhm.
right for them.
She says, he's so real and authentic and that they fit so well together. I think a part of what drew her to him is that I think she thought, "What I see is what I get."
Mhm.
I could imagine maybe with other men, they were hiding
Putting
more,
on,
not as open.
yeah,
He's open with his harshness. So I think with her, it was this mindset of, "Oh, it's not perfect, it's not the best, but at least I feel like I'm getting what I'm signing up for is what I'm seeing." And I
yes,
think
I
maybe that
know,
gave her a level of comfort.
yes, probably.
Um, mm,
Okay, so before we get to that, the way AD's mom came around the corner with that hat on cracked me up. I was like, what is this? She is such a like, she steals the show in my opinion every time she's
she
around.
really
The way
does.
she rode around that corner with that hat real low, I was like, girl, get in here.
Yeah,
But
she said, she met Clay's mom, they clicked, she's the real deal. I
I
love
could
that
see
for
that.
them.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Miss Margarita, and I don't know what AD's mom's name is.
I don't remember, but she's definitely one of the highlights of the show. She tells AD, that basically this is the mother-in-law I would want you to have.
Yes, and that's
Mhm.
so important, like having a good in-law. When her sister asked if Clay would be a great father and husband, I noticed that she started out by saying he'd be a great daddy. And then she did end with something about him being a good husband, but I think AD convinced herself that I think she sees the potential in Clay, and maybe she convinced herself that that potential was enough. And I think a lot of people go into relationships, marriages like this,
Mhm.
where they see the potential, but then at the end, they don't reap the benefits of the work that they put in. And then it's
Risk.
disappointing. And
Mhm.
so I think she had convinced herself, like, this is going to be it. This is going to be enough. And we can ride it out. And she, to her credit, she came all into this process.
Mhm.
And so I wish her the best. For sure.
And it's a risk because he may never get to a point where it's enough. I said, she was like, "Oh, I know he's gonna be a great dad." How do you know that? How are you so sure? Because
Mm.
from what I see later on, we finally see this dad that keeps coming up.
Ooh, okay, hold on. Before we say that,
Okay.
sorry, I just wanted to comment on Clay saying he's never been in a situation where he's chosen someone every day. And so I guess he was saying for the last few weeks he had chosen her every day. I liked his friend's
But
speech,
did you? Were you coming home?
questions that need answers. And I liked his friend's speech about marriage being about teamwork, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
I always like to see men with a solid group of friends. I don't know what his friends' lives look like. I didn't notice a ring on any of their fingers, so I don't really know what their situations are. But it's always nice to see men have solid friendships, especially in this day and age where men are very lonely, and don't
Yeah.
have like
The
those connections.
and the friends did acknowledge the growth that they said that they've seen in him. Growth from what? I need what did I say 2 recaps ago? I wanna know more about what his 20s have been.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, and he says, "Well, we're here today, and I'm here to ace it. So let's go." He was talking about it being feeling like a final exam. Child, did he ace it? We'll talk about that. I'll give my
Mhm.
opinions on that later. But yes, so back to meeting Clay's cheating daddy. I felt so bad. I felt so embarrassed for him coming on the show because I'm like, hello, we
He
know all
been
your
the talk of
business,
the town, and he's just showing up, and we're just like, "So."
right? We know so much about you, Trevor. Like, oh
So,
man,
yeah,
but
they
he
have
seems like a
this
nice guy.
yeah, they have this moment,
Mhm.
tells this story about him growing up. He was living vicariously through him. He's so proud of him.
Yeah.
But then he jumps to like, "Oh, well, I didn't have the father figure and didn't have the example, but I did the best that I could with what I had, with
Mhm.
my mom being in the picture." It sounds like they did have a more in-depth conversation,
But it was chopped up.
but it was chopped up. So, and it also sounds like it was a first conversation like this because Clay said, "I've never really dug deep with my dad or had any deep conversations, which
Mhm.
I'm like, huh, this is interesting. I'm gonna leave that conversation at that because I don't want to dig too much because the conversation did seem chopped up. So
I will say I felt for his dad a little bit. I think I've been in this space recently, just like reflecting, and I
mhm,
think parents do the best with what they have, and I think they look at their own situations, their childhood, and
mhm,
try, at least good parents, and try to make it better for their kids, but they still don't always get it right. So it seems like Trevor, Clay's dad, saw his dad was not there for his mom and his dad wasn't there for him. Maybe he took on a wife, and maybe he was the type who came home every night. And so
mhm.
he did it
Or
better than
involved
his
in the
dad.
kids' lives.
And he
Yeah.
it does seem like he has been a a pretty solid father, with the exception of taking his son, on the cheating trips. But it seems like he was in his friends, like in his kids' lives. Like he knows all about Clay's track career. And
Mhm.
he can say, I'm proud of you because he's witnessed those things. So I felt for his dad a little bit, just from the glimpse that we got. It seems like he tried to do it better than his father, and did that in a lot of ways, but fell short also in a lot of ways. So based on that chopped up conversation, I was like, dang, I feel for him a little bit.
Mhm. He did give him great advice on mindset though, telling him, "Hey, if you believe you can do something, you can do it.
Yeah.
So stop all this self-sabotage. If you want something bad enough, you know how to apply your drive and ambition in other areas of your life. You could do this if you really wanted to." And I
Yeah.
appreciated him saying that.
Yep. He said the one who wins is the one who thinks he can. Thank you, Clay's daddy. I'm gonna take that with me.
Mhm. It's all
uh,
about up here.
okay. All
Mhm.
right. So then he talks in his like private camera time. He says, I'm a lot like my dad. I was like, man, that's a scary thing to say. And I was afraid going into this wedding
Mhm.
what would happen.
Yeah.
So he talked about how conflict resolution, this was in his vows, I think. He talked about how conflict resolution was a highlight. And even though this process is expedited, they've been able to talk through hard things, which
Mhm.
I think is a really good sign of a positive relationship. But
Yeah, but it sounds like they didn't talk in detail enough about hard things, which we'll get to later on. I don't
mhm,
want to jump to it just
yeah,
yet.
you want to talk
So
about them coming down the aisle?
yeah, so the mom, I appreciate her calm energy, supportive, but also no BS. And something about her energy told me how this was gonna go. Now I
Really?
don't know, maybe she's just more reserved.
Yeah.
Even when they made it down the aisle, she was telling AD's mom, like, it's okay.
Hmm.
We're gonna get through this. I don't know. Something told me either if he says yes, the mom calls BS on it. And if he says
Hmm.
no, this is gonna be a mess.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they all looked beautiful. AD's mom, I feel like
Mhm.
every time she's around, she makes me cry, just the way that she loves her daughter and pours into her. I love both of the families,
Mhm.
honestly. From what we've seen, they are very supportive and kind, it seems.
Mhm.
Okay. So in his vows, he talked about conflict resolution.
Hold on.
Mhm.
Before when they walk down, one thing, the first thing he says to her is, "Okay, body,
I knew you were going to say that.
you know your best friend so well." I said, he eventually gets to,
You
after
look
all this him and
beautiful.
high, "Oh, you're beautiful." I did not care for that.
Yes.
We know her body is sickening. What else?
Yeah.
Just say, "Oh, wow, you look beautiful." It's the theatrics for me. I'm not here for it.
Even
Mm-mm.
when he walked out and her mom was like, "You look good." He's like, "Do I look like a husband?"
Not if you know you about to say no. Oh,
But you know what's interesting? Like he said, "Do I look like a husband?" I'm just playing. And so I don't know. Now looking back, certain signs.
they were there. And the way his mom was just, she was supportive and there, but almost stoic a bit and like crying here and there.
Mm,
Something about her energy just told me, like, this
I
ain't
think
gonna
that's
go.
just her, though.
I think
No,
it's just her.
I do.
Maybe hindsight is 2020 for me, and now I'm reading
Yeah,
into everything.
every
Okay.
that's true. Okay, so I liked her vows to him more than I liked his to her, even though he did give her flowers for getting them through the process. But I don't know. It just felt like You've done the labor.
Oh, your patience and you've been looking out for me. He didn't say anything about her as a person, just, oh, you put up with me.
She talked about the man he is. You're powerful, you have potential, you
You're
have yada,
beautiful,
yada, yada.
intelligent.
Yes. And there's just so much that
Ah,
she has going for her.
I didn't
He could have written a whole, manuscript on his
I did not
manuscript.
care for those vows. It just said, "Yeah, thanks for sticking in there, buddy."
And of course, the pastor quoted Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Child. Okay. So they get to the question, do you take Clay, whatever,
Mm,
whatever? And she says, I do. When it gets to his time, he says, I don't think it's responsible for me to say I do. I know I'm not ready for marriage and you deserve the best. I have never agreed with a person more. I don't think it would have been responsible for him to say I do. I think we all saw that. Like he's not ready for marriage. And AD didn't see it because she wanted this so much. Hopefully, in hindsight, she sees it. But we nobody thinks he was ready for marriage. Uh, and I do agree that she deserves the best.
mhm,
So I I appreciated him in this moment. I think I would have been extremely afraid had he said yes. I would have rooted for them. I would have been like, okay, I hope you get your happily ever after. Clay, you better not let us down. But I respect this because he would have played with that girl's heart. How
okay.
do you feel?
I don't have an issue with him saying no.
Okay.
Um, I think I have an issue with how he did it.
Same.
Yeah. So she says, after he says, "Oh, you deserve 100%," she says, "What the F?"
Hmm.
He says, "What does the timeline matter?"
Which is something he had said before.
Which is something he had said before. So I think leading up to this moment, nothing about him seemed unsure to me.
Hmm. As a
In
dude.
that he seemed that he would be okay with going in knowing that he's 70% ready to be married.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I wanted him to say yes. Please
Hmm.
do not take that from this. But I think in the way that he presented,
Hmm.
it seemed like he was comfortable with not being at 100%. It seemed that they were both in alignment, even though I would not want this for my good sis. They were both in alignment with she's at 100%, he's at 67, 70%, and they're willing to put in the work together. She's willing to shoulder the burden. He seemed to be okay with it. And so when they get to the altar, she's blindsided. You can tell
Yeah.
because they seem to be in agreement, even though we know it's toxic. They seem to be in agreement. And so I think for her, it's a thing of, well, if you knew that you needed to be at 100% to
Mm-hmm.
move forward on this, then why did you wait until the altar to say it?
Because that's the process. So I'll be honest because I've been on the internet already looking in comments, and people are like, "Why didn't you do like on Clay's Instagram?" Now people are like, "Why didn't you do like Jimmy and tell her before?" Because that's not the process. The process is you get to the altar and you make that decision. Now, do I think that our sis should have been blindsided? No, but I don't think the people who have all this vitriol for Clay getting to the altar and making the decision, which is what the show is supposed to be about, I don't think that's warranted. I
So
don't.
so I think for me, I'm fine with him getting to the altar and saying no.
Okay.
It's not that he waited. I think he reserves the right to say no. But then he follows up later in a diary cam talking about how there just wasn't enough time. So he had already brought up the timeline before.
Hmm.
Then he brings up, what does the time matter when we do it at the altar? And then later he says, like, oh, well, there wasn't enough time to talk about finances and it was
That
just kind of brushed off. I didn't know anything about her situation, which I said, maybe you should have been coming home. Finances is one of those things where we have ready access. Click, you can see you can pull your credit report, you can
Mhm.
pull up all of your bank statements, investments, all of these things. So that's not something it needs to take weeks to do.
Yeah.
Now, to get back to my original point, I think if he was unsure, I do think that he should have been communicating in such a way to let her know that there are some things that I am unsure about, because it almost sounded as if, AD, you're perfect. You're perfect.
But
I
she
know
is.
I know I'm the issue. I know that there's work to be done, but we're in alignment on the work that needs to be done.
Hmm.
And so that's where my issue is that if he felt a way about the finances, if he felt a way that, oh, it's too soon or whatever, he was having it, because he even said later on, I've been struggling with this the whole time. Did you tell AD you've been struggling with this the whole time?
Can I just say, from what we've seen,
Mm-hmm.
I think he was transparent about struggling the whole time. Like, I don't think, and
Yeah,
that's the
I could
thing
see
that
that.
has kept me from being like, I've said I like him as a person. He seems cool, and there's been a lot of stuff that's come out about a lot of these contestants. We haven't seen much that has come out on him. We haven't seen much that has come out on Jimmy, right? So I think he has been transparent about saying, "Oh, I saw what a husband looked like when we watched other seasons. I don't think that's me. Oh,
Then
I'm
why are
gonna
you
whoop you down.
here?
I'm gonna." But okay, fair. But
Because to me, that would it
he was transparent. Like, I just don't think we can look back at this season and be like, he seemed 100%. Yes, they were in alignment about, oh, the work needs to be done, but I don't think he ever gave certain,
mm,
ever.
I don't know if he gave I wouldn't say I agree. I would say he didn't give certain.
Mhm.
He gave, if you're willing to put in the work with me and carry the burden as well,
I
I'm
feel like he
willing.
always said, I appreciate that. Like, when she, even
Yeah.
that conversation at the kitchen island, when she was doing the dishes and she said, I'm okay with, he would always say, I appreciate that. But
Mm.
it was never convincing for me. If I were her friend watching these scenes, I would have been
Well, yeah, we'd never allow any of our
like, girl,
friends.
I don't know if
Girl,
that's what you
you need him
wanna.
to be 100%. I don't know. I wrote I don't know why he's here. If you realize there were things in you early on, I get that this is the process,
Yeah.
but I don't know how you sign up for a show, Love is Blind to lead to marriage.
Mhm.
What did she say? He says, oh, he says, I'm not 100%. I'm not deeply in love. I've been struggling with this the whole time. He says, you've been perfect. She says she feels like a sacrifice. Like, oh, all this growth that has happened, you
Mhm.
use me to get to these realizations. Um, and
I
yeah,
think I think this process was eye-opening for him. I think he probably thought I can come in and skate by and just do what I've always done and I'll be okay. And I do think this process transformed him a bit, not into a husband, but I do think it transformed him, like, oh no, like there's some serious stuff that needs to happen here.
also, I think him saying no
Mhm.
is because he legitimately thought she would date him after, because of something he
Even
said
though she said
later.
that she would. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Later
I'm
in
so
the
proud of her for
episode.
sticking. And I hope she did. If this reunion comes out next week and we find out that she's been dating him, I will be mad a little bit. I ain't gonna do nothing, but I'll just be like, dang, AD, we had a plan.
He was banking on her saying it's
Oh,
okay, because he kept bringing up, oh, what does the time matter? Because she said, well, what am I supposed to do now? He's like, well, I don't have to run away. He was pushing, I think, for them to continue to be together.
yeah.
And then that last confessional scene, he said something about, oh, this decision. What did he say? He says, oh, I didn't understand the magnitude of this decision. I just feel stupid.
Hmm.
He thought she would stick around.
Yeah. And I think he sees her value. It's just that she's ready to be a wife and you're ready to be a boyfriend. Like, it's not, the two don't go together. Um,
And let's talk about this scene with the mom and the dad.
Wasn't that juicy? It's like, oh my
I'm gonna
God.
say, I'm gonna gather you real
I
quick.
felt like a fly on the wall. She did it so like
Step into my
that's
office.
when they talk about what a woman like she did it in such a classy way.
I'm gonna get you together, baby.
I I felt like a fly on the wall. Like I shouldn't be here, but I'm here, so I'm gonna
Hmm.
watch it. Right, exactly. I felt happy that she's not gonna find out about stuff. Remember we talked about how his mom didn't know about the
Mhm.
trips and she was gonna find out with the rest of us. It seems like he was forthcoming and told her before the wedding.
Mhm.
And so she's like, there was some stuff that I didn't know that I found out in this process, and I have been hurt.
Yeah, she says, "Oh, I've forgiven you. You've apologized to me, but you need to explain yourself and apologize for the things that he saw." Then
Mhm.
he tries to say, "Oh, well, I didn't have the best models," but then the mom's like, no, but we don't get to pass on our brokenness to our children." So he was trying to find a detour, but she wasn't letting him have it, and I
Even with
appreciate that.
absolutely, even when he goes, well, he needs to find somebody like his mom. That's what I did. I found somebody, and she's like, yeah, you found me, but you didn't treat me right.
There was a lot more I know mama wanted to say, but she kept it very
She kept it
cute
cute.
and very professional
She needs to teach a
because
class
it,
on this because
I don't know. I get the sense that she knows the magnitude
what this
of
for
what all
herself.
he saw, and
Yes.
she's still trying to process. Because imagine if she didn't know
Hmm.
um, exactly what Clay knew and what he witnessed.
Yes.
That means that she navigated their separation and divorce from a standpoint of my son only knows but so much. So
Yes.
I can't even imagine all of what she's thinking and feeling. I
Yeah.
can't imagine what Clay is thinking and feeling. Like, you idolize this man to a certain extent,
Hmm.
but then there's this other side, and then you have your mom. Like
Hmm.
he said, he's going to therapy. I agree. He needs to do the work. I don't think that he should have said yes to AD. I just wish that while he was given saying that he wasn't maybe 100% ready, he seemed to be comfortable with moving forward at 60,
Hmm.
70%. She seemed to be comfortable with it. I would not want this for either one of them because I think it's silly,
Yeah.
but uh it was hard to watch to see her be so blindsided
And
and just really wanted it to work. She
see,
was
that's
willing
what
to
broke my
accept
heart.
60% of him.
Hmm.
And like she said, it still wasn't enough, which
But
is
that's the thing,
terrible.
like, okay, as much as it broke my heart for her, and it did, like, I
I know.
definitely teared
Ugh,
up because she I don't know her, but I don't she doesn't seem like the person who deserves any of that, just the way that she's carried herself throughout this entire process. So it broke my heart. But honestly, Miosha, I would rather her have had that moment
mhm.
than 24 years like his parents
I know.
of that. And that's the thing. I think her person is coming. Like she probably can't see it in this moment or in that situation, but there is someone who will give her over 100% constantly, so much so that she can rest and not have to tote the burden herself. Like someone will be able to carry that with her. And I hope that she finds it soon because even the she's carried herself with so much grace. Even the moment when he came to speak to her, she showed him a lot of grace. She was very, you know, to the point, like she said, well, that's a bizarre question to ask somebody. What do you mean, am I
Yeah.
okay? That would not have been my response. I would be like, do I look okay to you? Is
Yeah,
this
and
what
I
okay
think
looks
part
like?
of her, I'd imagine, is maybe that's part of the blindsidedness of it, is that
Mm,
she is kicking herself for willing to accept so little, and it
yeah.
still wasn't enough. Something she said, she is just still waiting for her turn. She thought it was her turn. It reminded me,
Risa
unless you've been
Tisa.
of Risa Tisa, unless y'all have been under a rock. And that I think that's a lot of women where on the outside, it's like, oh, girl, you should see all these things. You should know all these things. But maybe you are in a place of you feel like it's your turn. You're excited. And I don't know. It's,
And her saying it wasn't enough, like, you can never make someone change. They have to do that on their own, and they have to be able to show you the proof of that before you fully commit to them. And so I think that's the thing, because she seems to, just give of herself so gratuitously. I think she did that maybe too soon, and she needs to just observe how much is this person willing to pour into me, because I know what I can pour into them. And that's not to say be standoffish, still reciprocate whatever they're giving to you, show them kindness, but don't put yourself in that position where you're having to
mhm.
carry the load. So I hope the
She
best for
willing to carry the load and she's not getting much.
her. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
she absolutely is enough. And I'm sure they filmed this like last year, so hopefully she's in a different place. I see her commenting on like social media and stuff. Like, I remember they were talking about her leave out because she went and got her hair done in one of her, I don't know if it was
mm,
TikTok or what, but she went and got her hair done, and someone commented, oh, thank God, because that leave out was stressing me out. And she said, me too, sis. So like she's been she's
mm,
been interacting with people in the comments, and I hope that this goes into like some type of career for her. And I
mm.
hope at some point down the line she gets to host the reunions, because I'm sure Nick and Vanessa are going to let us down with the questions they ask, with who they lean into and who they don't. But AD seems to be a person who can get down to the nitty gritty
Mhm.
and do it in a very tactful way. And so I would love to see her host a reunion. They're not going to do it, but
Yeah.
host something.
I wanna make sure she didn't circle back with this man
I know,
because
please,
the way they
AD.
were hugging it out, I don't know.
But she did say at the end, I'm going to choose somebody who chooses me. I'm not going to date him anymore. And I hope another thing that I was saying, I think because she gave her all to this experiment, not that it's easier to let it go, but she knows she did everything she could.
Mhm.
So at the end, she's like,
And was willing to accept even less.
I fully committed to this, and I can walk away knowing I did my best. She said that to him, I did my best. And once you've done that, I would hope it's easier to be like, okay, I gave all, it didn't work out. Let me give my all to something else.
Yep.
All right. So we do have to talk about Amy and Johnny.
Yeah.
I don't
Aw.
have too much to say, but I thought it was such a beautiful like family affair. Her having his
Mhm.
sister in her bridal party.
Which told me there's yes
There
across
has
the
to be
board. It has to.
her his brother-in-law, or his future brother-in-law, being the one who did the ceremony. I thought
Mhm.
that was cool. So yeah, I like her family, her mom and her dad.
Mhm.
They're so proud of her, and they bring me to tears every time they're on the screen.
And
So
you can tell they've already been hanging out. The family seems to have clicked and they're already very close. And I don't know, she was all nervous about her dad, but he seems to be on board.
yeah, very much
So
so. I don't know
he's
if
like,
this
"Oh, you're a married woman. We
yeah.
know things are going to change," which I was happy to hear because some parents, they have their
Um,
claws in so deep, they don't understand that things evolve and change when their kids get married. They're like,
mm,
"Oh, yeah, yeah, you're married. That's fine," you know,
yeah,
but this is how we still do things in this
yeah,
family. So,
absolutely. Yeah, so
yeah.
they both said yes at the end.
Also, something I wanna comment on, like, I know AG was like, "Oh, I couldn't do it without test writing it." I'm happy for them and that if they chose to wait, that's their business, and I'm happy for them in that regard, like, there's more than one way to do things,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Period. I wish we had more to say about Amy and Johnny, but theirs was pretty straightforward. I'm curious to see how their relationship panned out. So the reunion episode, I yeah, I cannot wait to see.
Was Johnny the youngest on the show?
I don't know how young
Like,
was
as
he.
far as the men who progressed to getting married? He
I
was
think so.
26, 27.
Yeah.
I from the things he was saying about her, about marriage, he seemed to be the most mature in the things he was saying. Now,
Yeah.
we don't know this man, but he seemed to present to be the most mature
Mhm.
as far as the men in this process.
I think he and Johnny are the same age. I mean, him He
Mm,
and Jimmy are the same age,
same
I think
age? Okay.
27. But still, this man wants to get retired at 50. He has a plan, so he's on
Listen,
a path forward. Yeah, you guys let us know what you thought about the weddings. I just want to say I'm not going to make a villain out of Clay. I think he was
yeah.
absolutely right. It would have been irresponsible for him to go into a marriage when everyone, including himself, could see that he was not ready. And so I'm glad that he spared her a marriage.
Mhm.
And I hope that he has been to therapy since the show recorded and deals with that stuff. And I hope that our good sis AD has found
Mhm.
someone who's willing to put in what she puts in. So
Yeah. I don't think he's a villain.
no.
No. I'm happy that one of them said no.
Oh,
I just think
girl.
her confident yes was
Hmm.
driven from a place of, I
She
know I'm
wanted
not one, she wanted it, and I think she knew, okay, I'm not getting 100%. I've been saying he's Mr. 50% the whole time,
it. Mhm.
but there seemed to be some agreement on
Mhm.
them both being okay with it. But
How to move
we'll
forward.
see what the reunion says. Hopefully, they're not backdating and she's moved on with her life completely.
Period.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you guys after the reunion, child. It better be a good one. Nick and Vanessa, please do not let us down. But yeah, we will be back after that and let us know in the comments what you thought about the weddings.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.